It's quite a sad time because this is my last ever video vlog for this course, although my microphone quality seems to be getting progressively worse each time I do one of these, so maybe it's a good thing after all. The reading we had to do this week was What Comes After Remix by Lev Manovich, and he poses a very good question. As we have progressed throughout the viral video course, we've seen that we basically live in this cut and paste culture, and this is basically what Manovich reading is all about. It's about this remix culture and this remix era that we now live in. So in this way, literally everything and anything has the potential to be remixed. And Manovich says that remix is what dominates the 2000s. So he's almost arguing that we have postmodernism in the 80s, and this has kind of now progressed and moved on to this current remix culture that we're living in. So remixes aren't just an internet-based thing either. They've kind of seeped into all cracks of society. And when he mentions things such as magazines and conferences that have now started to use these techniques, and he says gradually the term has become more and more broad, and today it refers to any reworking of an already existing cultural work. So basically, the remix era has come, is taken over, but is it necessarily here to stay? So Manovich goes on to talk about other ways in which remix has kind of been described, and these are namely appropriation and quoting. So appropriation is spoken about in non-music practices, and it's to do with the reworking of photographic images. But Manovich prefers the term remixing better because remixing suggests a systematic reworking of sources, whereas appropriation is more about just copying the images as a whole. And similarly, quoting refers to inserting fragments from old text into new ones, so it's kind of like small aspects. And Manovich prefers the term remixing here, as remixing refers to rearranging the whole text, not just small excerpts. So instead of calling appropriation and quoting precedents to remixing, he goes on to say that they should just be called another new practice of authorship. And instead, remixing was made possible by electronic and digital technology, sampling. So with sampling, I've spoke quite a lot about this in previous video blogs, especially the one I did on DJ Spooky, because he mentions sampling, and Manovich mentions DJ Spooky in his text, so all conjoins. So Manovich says that sampling technology has meant practice such as montage and collage, which I spoke about during the Eisenstein week, have become industrialised and are now being used more for profit and commercial reasons, not just for pleasure and creativity, much like art practices such as GIFs and Vines, which I spoke about in previous blogs too. Manovich also talks about electronic pop and the new revolution surrounding this, and he says that montage and collage don't adequately describe this new revolution in pop music, and ultimately I agree. The modifications, remixes and sampling now created by electronic pop artists are incredible. You don't know what they're going to do next, and you don't know the new levels of creativity they're going to produce. So just to simply call these as montages and collages is perhaps a little bit inadequate nowadays. So ultimately, the big question is, what comes after remix? And really nobody knows. I don't know, Manovich doesn't know, you don't know. But what Manovich does state is that will it even be psychologically possible to create a new aesthetic that does not rely on excessive sampling? And I thought that this was a good question to ask, because if you think about it, there's nothing new that could possibly not use aspects of the old, if that makes sense. Like, everything's already been done before, and so to create new things you have to kind of take the old and mix it up a bit to create the new. So it'd be really interesting if something new could be created that's not already done before and that does not use an aspect of the old. So that will be quite exciting to see if it's actually possible to do that. However, what I do know and what I do agree with what Manovich says is that this remix culture is likely to morph into something else fairly soon, perhaps, and one day in the future maybe it will be actually studied on this course.